Okay, so this is for oil painting class. I'm doing a demo on the next palette for the next unit where in this next unit that we're entering, the still life is going to go very low intensity. All the objects are going to be very low intensity colors, but the paints that we're going to paint with are all going to be very high intensity colors. So that means, and we're going to make a set of like of lights, right? Of mid values and of darks, and then we're also going to make some in-betweens. And for each of them, we're going to make a warm, a mid, and a cool. And what we're going to do, though, is everything is going to be as high intensity, high key as possible. So for our warm light, we'll start with that yellow. And obviously, this is not as high intensity as straight out of the tube, but I want it to be, you know, a little bit lighter than that. So I have to add some white to it. And I'm going to get a separate palette knife so that as I work with my cool colors, I'm not mixing too much. And so my cool light could either be based on the colors that we have in our palette system. It could be like just a French ultramarine blue, right? Very, very pale. It could be like a phthalo green, very, very pale. We could even make something, a combination of the two, or if we had a phthalo blue, we could do that, a blue that's kind of like in between these two. Or we could also do like a pink from alizarin crimson. It'd be cool enough to count as a cool. I think I'm going to go with, based on what I know from the still life that I've constructed in the past, I'm going to go with phthalo-based green. And as you can see, phthalo green is a very, very cool green. Very blue-ish on the seafoam teal side. So that's a cool color. We could make it cooler by adding some of the blue, especially if we had a phthalo blue. We could, by adding the French ultramarine, we would be losing a little bit of intensity because, as many of you know, French ultramarine is a little bit on the violet side, so that would be shifting. Now, and then we can make a mid-temperature in the middle. Also needs to be a light. It could be another green, right? We could make a slightly warmer green. That could work. Or it could be a red of some sort. Like we could start with alizarin crimson. I'm thinking about it. Now, alizarin crimson is a very cool red, but because I had a little bit of yellow on my already on my palette knife, the resulting peach color that we have is not as cool as that, and it does sit as being kind of in between in temperature between these two. And my goal was to make this color be the lightest, which it's not quite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save some of that for another color and then add a little bit more white to this one. Because I want, and this is the same as like any other palette we've made, you know, as you make 3 colors in a value system, right? Like say, these are my lights, that we have a choice as to which is our lightest and which is our darkest. Like right now, these two are pretty close to the same value as each other. And they're both definitely lighter than our yellow. And so to make those distinctions between them, I could keep adding white to the salmony sort of pink, but I could also decide to add just a little bit more of the phthalo green to here, and that would just slightly darken it. And you can see how now that's more clearly a slightly darker value. And I could also do the same with the yellow. Just to make it. So yellow is definitely just slightly darker than the teal. Okay, so now I have my 3 lights. Now we can start thinking about our 3 darks. No, we'll do our 3 mids first. So for mid-value, a mid-value warm, probably the logical thing that might pop into your mind is kind of a red or red-orange, but you could also think about a really intense, where did I put my other reds? I had another red. I moved it somewhere. You could also think about like a really intense mid-value warm green could work as well. But I'm going to go with my mid-value being a red-orange. And once again, our goal is to pretty much make the value level, make the temperature that we can, as best as we can, you know, as close to as intense as possible. So I want to get as much of the white off of my palette knife there. Like a little bit of that peachy color won't hurt, but I want to get maybe a little bit more of that on there. All right, so we have a mid-value. When you're dealing with really, really intense colors, it is harder to judge value. This is true, right? Like, it's hard to really see that as a light or a dark relative to other colors because all we really see is just how red it is. It's so intense, it's so red. But it's important to remember that every color is a value. Okay, so for our mid-value cool, we'll need a little bit of white because we're going to be starting with French ultramarine. French ultramarine is a very, very dark color straight out of the tube. There's a little bit of that teal that mixed in there, which is okay. It's going to take some of that kind of a violetish quality out of the French ultramarine. And it will, just by the fact that the French ultramarine is on the red side, it's a little bit violet, and that teal obviously is, you know, green. So that's going to take the intensity down just a little bit, and you can see that, right? Like that color is just a little bit less intense than the red, and I'm going to go with my blue mid-value to be the darkest of my mid-values. And it was already a little bit darker than that warm, but I want it more definitely. And you're going to find that you're going to have a hard time knowing for certain which one is lighter or darker until you start actually putting them right next to each other and making plane changes with objects. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be so absolutely clear. And I'm going to make my mid temperature. I'm going to make that also kind of on the pinkish side, but maybe a little bit cooler pink. And I think I might make this even darker than the French ultramarine based blue violet color. It's close to the same value. One trick is, as you're doing this on your own and you're like trying to wonder, how do I know that one is darker than the other? If you turn all the lights off in the room and squint your eyes, you're going to see the distinction more clearly. Okay, so we've got 3 for the light value, 3 for mid value, and now we're on to our darks. So dark warm. Now, what do we do about a dark warm? Because if we make it a green, a really dark green, that's a warm green, is going to inherently be, it's going to have to be somewhat low intensity. And if we did like a dark red, if it's a warm dark red, it'll have to be a low intensity. In fact, I think to prove that, I'm going to make both. Let's do with a dark red first. So we can make this red darker without losing intensity by just adding alizarin crimson. But simply by adding alizarin crimson, we're also making it cooler. And so it's no longer quite as warm as that. If we want this to be warmer, and also if we want it to be darker, we're going to have to bring in some more low intensity colors, and that's where the burnt umber or burnt sienna would come in. I'm bringing a little bit of alizarin back in, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of the red back in just to bring a little more intensity to it. But I think the burnt umber really did help to kind of like define it as warm and to define it as a dark. Okay, but we could do the same with the green. Let's say we decided, I'm going to have to borrow some colors here. If we decided we wanted to make, and I'll try to use as little as possible because these are Ella's colors I'm borrowing right there. If we wanted to make a dark green that was warm, especially with the colors that we have. Now Ella's kind of lucky because she has a sap green, so that would help us a little bit. Picked up a little bit of the orange, but that's okay. I'm going to get just a hair of the yellow just so we can kind of see the warmth a little bit more clearly. As you can see, for us to get really significantly darker and also to really be warm, we'll need a little bit of burnt umber. We can have a really warm dark green. I could maybe add just a little bit of the sap back into it to bring the intensity and the warmth. Okay, so now let's talk about our cool dark. So our cool dark could be on the alizarin crimson side, although we've run out of alizarin crimson. It could be a, like a phthalo green side, or it could be on the French ultramarine side. I'm going to go with French ultramarine mostly just because that's the color I have left on the palette, and I don't want to steal more from anybody. And we could pretty much just go pretty close to straight out of the tube. Now we have to decide, which do we want to be darker? If we want this to be any darker than that, then we might actually have to lose a little bit of intensity. But it's already a little bit darker, and I think that might work. Just straight French ultramarine, in this case, will work perfectly fine to be our dark cool. And then in between, I'm feeling like that's still not warm enough. I might have to add more burnt umber to it. In between, we're going to need to go, we could go magenta again, although I don't like that idea. The reason I don't like it is because then we kind of basically have like sort of pinks running down the middle all the way through. We could go with a green. take some of that green. We could make, so this was kind of like a somewhat of a last minute decision, to be completely honest. But what I've decided to do is make my mid temperature, my darkest, on this level as well. And what I did was I started with phthalo, but I also added a little bit of this warmer green to it that I made earlier. And then a little bit of the French ultramarine. We might also just add, just to make sure that, because I want this to be my darkest value, add just a little bit of burnt umber to it to ensure that it is the darkest. Okay, I like that, but I still feel like that's not quite warm enough, right? It's like, it's clearly a red, and this is another difficulty that we'll have in this, making this palette, is remembering that like warm is always going to be how they relate. Like, it's not warm enough compared to these two colors. Yes, it is a red in our mind. Reds are always warm, but it's not warm enough. So I'm going to take a lot of it away, put that over there. We'll save that for some other color that we mix. And then I'm just going to add more burnt umber. Now this may mean that now this and this are close to the same value. So what I can do is add this warmer, more orangish red back into it so that I can keep it warm but have it be the lightest of the three values. Let's see if that works. Just not light enough. Now I'm kind of deciding that I want my warm to be the lightest, and then my cool to be the next darkest, and then my mid to be the darkest. I'm deciding that kind of arbitrarily because we don't have the still life set up. But in practice, what you should do is you should make this decision based on what you're looking at in the still life. You should look at the still life and say, overall, where I'm looking, do I see that most of the darkest values, are they the warm darks or are they the cool darks? Okay, I think that came out pretty good. Pretty much so. Once again, to sum up. So, and remember also then we can make in-between values, right? For the study, you're just doing three values, warm, cool, and mid. And then for the bigger painting, we're going to do 5 values, warm, cool, and mid, plus extra colors. But for the study, basically a palette like this. And then you just kind of look to each thing. So let's say we're looking at an object and we're saying, okay, what value do I see there? And we might decide that the top of the plane, we could maybe go, based on the colors that we have here, it's a tough call. If we had a choice, like what I would probably do is I would paint these two planes with the magenta and then make a new color that's between these two, right? Make a color, and that would be the top plane. That could work. Or we could go more warm. We could go with, once again, we could go with this color for that plane. And then the magenta for the front plane, because they're pretty close. And then we probably need to make a warmer color that would be maybe a color that's these two combined. That would be the top plane right there. Okay, Anyway, what was I going to say about it? So we have three values, or 3 lights, right? A warm, a mid, and a cool. 3 mids, a warm and a mid and a cool. 3 darks, right? I actually did an alternate warm dark, but like, so we have a warm, a mid, and a dark. And so for the 5 value, then you just have you have like value in this level and that level. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's the hardest part's going to be like looking at the still life where we're gonna have lots of low intensity objects, and then figuring out what's the right color based off what's the right value and the right temperature for the thing that you see. Okay? All right. That's it.